When you're sick, you don't want to wait in a doctor's office. Skip the waiting room with waitfromhome.com. Brought to you by UMC Physician Network Services. Check into the clinic online or on your phone, and we'll call or text when your doctor's ready. Your comfort is important. Waitfromhome.com.
Welcome everybody to RedRaiders.com for the UMC Health System Avalanche-Journal pregame show. I'm Nick Kosmiter, joined as always by Don Williams, and Zach Long will join us a little bit later. Don, it's week 3 already. Hard to believe that we're already almost a quarter of the way through the season. Texas Tech coming off a 58-10 win over Texas State down in San Marcos last week, where really they were kind of running on all cylinders. Spent the week having a lot of people say, oh, the Bobcats might be the upset team for the week. Texas Tech, they didn't take too kindly to that.
Yeah, it was 28-0, 16 minutes into this game, and we found out after the game part of the reason why, which was Tech players were really a little bit peeved at listening not only to people think that they were a potential upset victim, but also there were some comments that came out of San Marcos evidently that riled up the Red Raiders. Terrence Bullitt after the game said that he was hoping Tech would, quote, bust the clock. By that I think he meant bust the scoreboard, because he said he felt like the Red Raiders were disrespected all week, and that thought was kind of reiterated on Monday.
It's definitely a change of pace. You know, when Kaufman came in, changed the whole attitude, and I think you can see that on the field. We're going out there having fun, flying around, and you know the results are coming, so we just got to improve and keep that up.
I noticed before the game, I had guys walking around, you know, with a look on their eyes of having fun and shaking each other's hand before the game. Usually when you've got a young team like this, everybody's kind of, you're watching out for yourself. You're kind of nervous. Am I going to do the right things? You know, you had Jason Merrill walking around talking to the offensive line. I noticed that. We had other guys, you know, that was vocal in the dressing room. You have to have all that. You have to have your leadership within. You have to have a sense of pride, and you know, a lot of people had got these kids upset because they were predicted to lose this game, and which we rightly, you know, we could have lost the game, but they kind of took offense because they, you know, how the game went last year and how we were playing. It's not like that we didn't think we had a decent football team, and so it was good that they showed a little pride of, hey, we're going to prove to people we're a little bit better than what they think we are.
All right, welcome back, and now we're going to talk about 2 key matchups for Saturday's game between Texas Tech and New Mexico. Don, let's start with you.
One of them I think will be Texas Tech's. It'll be just like the last couple of weeks, which is Texas Tech linebackers, how well they defend the option. They saw it against Northwestern State. They saw it this past weekend against Texas State. They've done a good job against it so far. No long runs really given up by this team. The linebackers have been filling gaps well. They have been, looked like they knew where they were supposed to line up before the snap, and then they've gotten to the ball carrier. Art Kaufman has been pleased with the way that they've been pursuing the football, and they'll need to keep that up this week.
And I'm going to stay with the running game. What we've seen so far in the first 2 games is a balance between Kenny Williams, Eric Stevens, and Sadell Foster. All 3 of those guys have gotten pretty equal carries. Against Texas Tech, against Texas State, you had Eric Stevens and Kenny Williams both had 62 yards rushing. Sadell Foster had 56. And so they're continuing to mix up these guys. I'm going to be interested to see if maybe 1 or 2 of these guys sort of really starts to cement themselves and kind of gets in a routine where they're getting the ball a little more than the others. I don't know that we'll necessarily see that, as all 3 of them have found their ways to contribute so far here early.
As a matter of fact, among Williams, Foster, Stevens, one of those guys has 22 carries, one has 21 carries, one has 20 carries. Earlier this week, we asked Sadell Foster about it, and Sadell is a newcomer to the Texas Tech program, talkative young man. We asked about how things are going for him in his first couple of weeks as a Red Raider. What was your reaction when the Tech coaches asked you to play running back?
It wasn't a shock to me because prior to them recruiting me, Coach Tubbs asked me if I had any running back experience and if I played, and I told him yeah, and I was capable of doing it. So I had some kind of knowledge of coming in and playing running back. I feel like they came back to me a lot in the spring. You know, I got my cutting ability back and my vision, and I was able to see holes opposed to playing slot receiver where it was just me and a man and reading the zone and the cover. So I feel like my feet got back under me and I got my balance back a little bit better. I'm still adjusting though.
Tell us a little bit, for folks who do not know, you've known Will Smith virtually all your life, or
Yes.
since you guys were young guys. What was it like? How long have you known him, and what was he like, and what was y'all's maybe competition or friendship like when y'all were kids?
I've been knowing Will since I was 7. Like, we've always been like neighbors down the street, and Will was actually my fullback when we were younger. He was always a little bit overweight, so he never played on my team too much, but every time he did, he played fullback for me. And Will's different than he was then. Like, he never talked when we were younger. Like, he never had anything to say. He's a little bit more talkative now, but he's still a little shy.
You also got 2 kickoff returns. This year, kickoffs moved up from the 30 to the 35-yard line. What was your reaction?
That changed a lot of things, because most of the time in your mind, you feel like you're not going to get to return it because everybody's going to kick it in the end zone, but when they do kick it to you, it's a surprise, and, when you do get the opportunity, you have to make the best of your opportunities. My first one, I handled it kind of poorly because we were taught to, when the ball's kicked inside the halves, the primary returner has to go get it. So as I'm going to get it, I'm trying to call Bradley off, and like me and him didn't communicate very well. So we end up like kind of running into each other, and then I dropped the ball, which kind of helped it because it opened up the lanes a little bit more, and that helped me out a lot. I mean, when I go in and I get my opportunity, I just have to capitalize and understand that, opportunities are limited and you never know when your number's going to be called, so I'll stay ready as much as possible. And my number's called, I just try to perform at the best of my ability.
And right now, Nick, we're going to take a look at the New Mexico Lobos, the Red Raiders' opponent for Saturday night at the Jones. And New Mexico comes in. Texas Tech ought to be very familiar with them. They've played them the last few years. And new regime, though. Mike Loxley out, Bob Davies in, after a 10-year hiatus since his time at Notre Dame, and a little bit different Lobo look offensively.
Yeah, they talked earlier this week about how Bob Davie came in and he took over this program that definitely has to be rebuilt. There's a pretty bare cupboard. So what they've kind of done is they've gone to this triple option. He's tried to best utilize the personnel that he does have to keep things sort of simple. And so that's what we're going to see offensively out of the Lobos. It's the same look that we've seen a lot. We saw from Northwestern State. We saw from Texas State. So Tech should have plenty of practice in terms of limiting this offense, and that's kind of what we're going to see out of them. They scored 66 points in their opener against Southern, weren't able to get into the end zone against Texas, weren't able to score against Texas. So, Tech is just going to try to have to keep it basic, follow their discipline, and they should be able to stop them pretty easily, I think.
And irregardless of what has happened with New Mexico in the past and the previous 2 weeks, Tech's players and coaches, they have a lot of respect for this team. They can see a different attitude under a new coach compared to Mike Loxley, and even Seth Deggy pointed out some things with their defense, and Coach Tuberville and several of the players spoke about that this week.
He brings experience. I mean, there's nothing like experience of being a head coach and understanding how to build a program and set a program up and recruit and hire coaches. He's hired some good coaches, some guys that are really going to help his team. He had a lot of guys leave the team when he got there, a lot of players, and that usually happens when you have coaching changeovers because of personalities and philosophies. But he understands. I mean, it's not like bringing a guy in that's never been a head coach before, just looking around what I do next. I mean, he understands how to get the guys ready, and you can tell by the first 2 games he won the first game by a lot of points, and there's a lot more excitement there. I'm watching the film this year and watching the films that we've seen in the past. There wasn't a lot of confidence going on, but you can tell these guys are having fun. They lost last week. They knew there was going to be an uphill battle, but they did battle them and made a lot of plays, and they kept themselves in the ball game a lot longer than probably what a lot of people give them credit for.
The biggest thing that jumps out to me is how hard they play. They play a lot harder this year. They do have a new coach, and I think he's got them playing a lot harder. I know their defensive lines is going to be our biggest test so far in the games we've played.
They are much improved. Just watching them on film last week against Texas, they moved up and down the field. They just couldn't get it across the goal line. Kind of reminded me of us last year down in Texas. Made a lot of yards. Had the ball almost the entire first half, but just couldn't score. But did have a couple of injuries, and don't know how those stack up. But it's probably fortunate for us that we played Texas State and New Mexico back-to-back because very similar in terms of option, so there'll be a lot of carryover for the defense.
So, Nick, obviously, Tech, they respect the Lobos quite a bit, but we have to be honest, last year, a lot of points got put on New Mexico by Texas Tech, and B.R. Hallbrook, the quarterback, little banged up with some ribs last week at Austin, but it looks like out of Albuquerque, the report's saying he's going to be back for the Tech game, but still, maybe a long road ahead for New Mexico.
Yeah, you know, as much as there might be some new excitement in Albuquerque, Bob Davie has shown that he can do some good things with the programs, obviously, that he's coached, and so it looks as though they might have a future of being able to get better, to compete, but they're not there yet for sure. I think we're going to see another blowout game. Texas Tech is favored by about 33 points. That would be kind of my guess as to about where it's going to be. And you know, Tech just needs to follow its assignments, polish up, because in 2 weeks the real action begins.
You bet. And maybe New Mexico's best defense in this is to keep the ball away from Texas Tech. But that'll do it for our breakdown in New Mexico. We'll be right back after this, and Don and Nick will have more for you.
When you're sick, you don't want to wait in a doctor's office. Skip the waiting room with waitfromhome.com. Brought to you by UMC Physician Network Services. Check into the clinic online or on your phone, and we'll call or text when your doctor's ready. Your comfort is important. Waitfromhome.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to RedRaiders.com. Don, now we're going to start our segment of 3 things, and a little bit different this week. We're going to look at the 3 things that Texas Tech wants to shore up before conference season. Obviously, this is the last non-conference game, then an open date, then Iowa State. So, Don, where do we start?
I think if you compare this year to last year, one of the things that we've had for the first couple of games is Texas Tech has blown out both opponents from start to finish. The game against Northwestern State and the game against Texas State came off without incident. I think if you're a Texas Tech fan or follower, one thing you would like to see is a non-conference schedule that you just blast every opponent and you go into conference play with some confidence. Contrast that with last year. Texas State season opener, first half you're behind. Second game against New Mexico, first half you're stopped by lightning delays. Even though you win the game big, it's a weird trip. Third game against Nevada, you give up a ton of rushing yards in that option ground game, that pistol offense, and then have to win that game with a touchdown pass in the final minute of play. So it was a year ago at this time, this team was, I think, very unsure of itself and who it was after non-conference play. They have a chance, if they take care of business Saturday night, to build better momentum than they had at this time last year.
Yeah, we've seen that confidence so far. Another thing that Coach Tommy Tuberville has talked about quite a bit so far this week is special teams. And there hasn't been any big breakdowns on those units, but Tuberville wants to shore things up a little bit, wants to see a little bit more attention to detail. A couple weeks ago, they let a punt drop instead of catching it or fair catching it. And they saw last week what can happen if you let a kickoff drop. Texas State let that happen, and Tech recovered it, scored a few plays later on a touchdown pass to Darren Moore. So the Red Raiders, both in the kicking game, the kick return game, they just want to see that everybody is following their assignments and making plays happen in special teams. And maybe they'll even get a chance to punt because they've only done that one time. Although Tommy Tuberville said, if we don't get to work on the punting game too much, I'm not going to be too disappointed.
That's something that obviously he's talked about in the last couple of weeks. One of the things that he's talked about for the last 2 years periodically is must run the ball better, must defend the run better. Through 2 games, the Red Raiders have shown progress in that regard. Obviously, the running game, as we mentioned earlier in the show, has been productive with Kenny Williams, Eric Stevens in the comeback from knee surgery, and Sadale Foster. Those guys combined, averaging over 5 yards a carry, have been a good complement for this passing catch game that Texas Tech plays. And then on the opposite side of the ball, the defense, as we have mentioned, has been defending the run better. I don't know how much you read into that because, quite frankly, Northwestern State didn't have any individuals that impressed me. And Texas State, in that game, the Red Raiders did not see Marcus Curry, who was hurt after he had that 130-yard game, 3 touchdowns against Houston the week before. So maybe you can only do so much, but I think they want to go out and have another good game in which they run the ball effectively and they defend the run effectively.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for predictions and prognostications. Full slate of games this week, and we actually get a Big 12 conference game, gentlemen. The first one, and the first one of the TCU Big 12 era. Let's start it off with TCU Kansas. Nick Kosmider.
Horned Frogs opened the season up with a 56-0 win last week. I see them coming out strong against Kansas. Offense, defense, they're going to roll the Jayhawks.
Yeah, don't lose to Rice at home. TCU big. Don?
Can't disagree with you there. TCU should win this one pretty handily. They have it, offense, defense, and Kansas is a pushover.
There you go. And now to a little bit more of an intriguing game, Texas at Ole Miss. Nick?
We saw what that Texas defense can do in a shutout of New Mexico last week. I expect that unit to be the difference when they go down to SEC country in Oxford.
Don?
I like Texas also, even though I would like to see Ole Miss come through. As long as the Longhorns should take care of business, as long as they're not distracted by pregame in the Grove, which can be very distracting.
Yes, it is. I've seen it. Same way. Bo Wallace and Ole Miss are much better, but Texas is going to squeak this one out, but a much closer game. How about a little bit more intrigue here, Don? I'm going to come right back to you. Auburn and the Darlings, Louisiana Monroe.
Normally we save our upset picks for the end, but guys, I think Louisiana Monroe has a very good shot to make it two big upsets in a row, and I'm not actually sure how big an upset it can be. The reason why is Louisiana Monroe scored 34 points last week when they got their big win. Auburn, on the other hand, has played 2 games and has really struggled badly on offense, particularly in the passing game. The War Eagles have not made it to 20 points yet, and so Louisiana Monroe has shown it could score points. Auburn hasn't. I actually think Louisiana Monroe could very well win this game.
I'm on the Don Williams bandwagon. Auburn's a train wreck. Go Warhawks. Nick?
Not so fast. Lightning's not going to strike twice in SEC country. We typically don't see those monster upsets by a team like that happen back-to-back weeks. I think Auburn's going to be on alert and ready to not let the upset happen.
All right, Nick goes against us on this one, but I'm going to come right back. Another intriguing game. New SEC member, Texas A&M and SMU. That one at the Ponies.
Did you see what happened the last time SMU tried to play against a major conference team? It didn't turn out so well.
Unfortunately,
I don't see their defense being able to slow down the Aggies.
Don?
Johnny Manziel looked really good against Florida, at least in the first half he did. He's the guy who's going to be a really quality quarterback for them, and this is an opportunity for him to gain some confidence and look for him to have a big day against the Mustangs.
I agree. I think they build on the Florida experience and they win that game. Speaking of the Gators, big one for them in the SEC, Florida-Tennessee. Nick Kosmider.
The Florida is really starting to buy into that SEC defense under Will Muschamp, but I think it's going to be their playmakers that keep fans in Knoxville from singing Rocky Top at the end of this one.
Don Williams.
Boy, guys, Florida has been a real burr under the saddle of Tennessee for, 7 8 years now. It seems like they have a long winning streak against Tennessee. This is a toss-up game. I'll go with Tennessee to get a little bit of payback on the Gators. Tennessee being the home team here maybe makes the difference.
I think the confidence from the win over A&M is big for Florida. They win that football game. I'm going to start with the alum from Arizona State, Nick. Arizona State, Missouri in Columbia.
Yeah, perhaps I'm a little biased on this one, but I think the key for the Sun Devils is that through 2 games they have not committed 1 defensive penalty. That's a complete 180 from the Dennis Erickson era when the Sun Devils were among the most penalized teams in the entire country. That discipline's going to be key on the road. They have some playmakers. I think Arizona State goes to Columbia, pulls out a squeaker win late.
And I actually believe in Arizona State. I think they're a much better football team, but maybe not to where they need to be to win that game in Columbia. I got Missouri. Don Williams.
I'm with Missouri. I'm with you also on Missouri. We'll go 2-1 Missouri in this one. I just think the Tigers played some really good football last week against Georgia before it kind of unraveled for them at the end. It's just hard for me to see them losing a couple in a row. I think they're still a good football team, so I'll take Missouri.
Okay, let's go to the Pac-12 with the next one. A game last year that would have been very intriguing, maybe not so much this year. Southern Cal and Stanford. Nick?
I have 8 words. Matt Barkley, Silas Redd, Robert Woods, Marquise Lee, USC rolls.
Don Williams.
10 words, I guess.
I'll take USC also. That's better reasoning. I was watching Stanford's highlights last week, and they're one of the teams that got my award for worst uniforms of the week. You're Stanford, and you're wearing black jerseys and black pants. When did that get incorporated into the school colors? You're the Cardinal, okay? So I'm taking Southern Cal.
I thought they were the Fighting Trees because of that tree mascot wandering around.
Yeah, Stanford had awful uniforms last week, and Missouri Missouri with nearly a life-size tiger on its helmet. I'll take SC.
What's going on here?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go with USC too. Unless Lane Kiffin has hidden way more injuries than he's let on, I think USC rolls in that game. Now maybe the best matchup of the night, people are looking at Notre Dame, Michigan State.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Obviously Notre Dame, we saw them a couple weeks ago in Ireland against Navy, put up huge points. Obviously Kelly has them playing pretty well, but I think Michigan State wants a sort of a revenge for the Big Ten that had such a rough week last week, and I think the Spartans managed to squeak out a win at home.
Don Williams.
Michigan State's won 14 in a row at home. They're playing this one at night. Now, Michigan State doesn't have all the answers right now. They have a really new quarterback because Kirk Cousins had been their quarterback for 3, maybe 4 years.
7 years.
Kirk Cousins has given good quarterbacking play for a long time. He's gone. Michigan State, though, does have the running game, and again, they've been a real tough team at home. So I'll take Michigan State.
Yeah, I think they save face for the Big Ten right here. They showed a lot of resolve in that Boise State game. I got Michigan State. Now it's time for our upsets of the week, and Nick and I are still failing miserably during this segment, but Don, I pick 1-point underdogs. Williams has gotten 2 in a row. What do you got for us this week? A Division III game?
To set the record straight, Ohio U was a 6-point underdog when it beat Penn State.
Oh God.
And let's see, my upset pick that came through last week was Northwestern was a 3.5-point underdog.
He's getting riskier.
Would it be Vanderbilt? I already told you that Louisiana Monroe will knock off Auburn.
Okay.
I haven't checked and seen what the spread is on that, but I'll give you a bonus pick. I'll take Navy over Penn State again.
Oh, good Lord.
Service Academy option. I love a great Service Academy option, and that'll be the next of Penn State's problems.
Okay, what are you going to counter him with on that one?
I think Maryland at home over Connecticut. Maryland's a 3-point underdog, but I think Randy Edsall he's going to be ready for his old team, even though they're going to be jacked up to play him. Connecticut doesn't have enough offense, and I think the Terps are going to squeeze one out.
Okay, I'm going to go for my upset of the week. Go make fun of the Big Ten some more. I got Utah State over Wisconsin. Watched that team last week. Utah State is an extremely talented, dangerous team. We watched them almost pop OU a few years ago up in Norman. Wisconsin is a train wreck. Fired the offensive line coach this week because of all people, Wisconsin can't run the friggin' football. So I'm going to go with
that happen?
Exactly. So I'm going to go with Utah State in this one. Nick, now let's move on to the game that people are going to mostly be concerned about, other than the ones we went through. Texas Tech and New Mexico, Saturday night, Jones AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, we've talked about it plenty. This is just a matter of Texas Tech getting out of this game without any injuries and really sort of shoring up that consistency both on offense and defense, getting different people involved, and really just ending this non-conference season on a high note with plenty of confidence. I like Texas Tech to win 52-10.
There you go. And I'm on the same path. I don't think New Mexico has the offensive weapons. They barely throw the football. If Tech's defense wants to learn how to stop the run, they're going to have multiple opportunities. I think they tee off. They cause all kinds of problems. Seth Doege does exactly what he did last year in Albuquerque. High efficiency. I think they roll in this one. I'm going to go 58-13. Don Williams.
I'm seeing the same game that you guys are. I got 55-7 Texas Tech. I mean, the defense Texas Tech defense gets a bonus because they're facing a banged up quarterback with B.R. Holbrook making the early exit last weekend against Texas. And I think the same thing that was true of this game last year is still true this year, and that is that Texas Tech's receiving core is again a mismatch for New Mexico's defensive backs. Bob Davie this week talked about the struggles that this team has had in pass coverage, and facing Texas Tech is no way to get well when that's one of the ills that afflicts you. So it should be, as long as the Red Raiders don't do something crazy like commit 3 turnovers or still have a couple of special teams blunders, they should get out of this one with barely breaking a sweat.
Well, that's going to do it for us this week on the UMC Health System Avalanche-Journal pregame show. Be sure to stay locked in to LubbockOnline.com and RedRaiders.com all day Saturday and throughout the weekend for full coverage of the Texas Tech football team. For Don Williams and Zach Long, I'm Nick Kosmider. Have a great day.